First Holmes was born, then he got fat, bald, and tired. What's up, Holmes?
Beware, your host, Jonathan Holmes.
Wow, I really didn't think the show was starting already. Let me take a sip. Get ready. Do you have any toast, Jake Virt Kaufman?
I don't actually. I ran out, but I do have some Vegemite. I could just eat that with a spoon.
What's that taste like straight? I've never had straight Vegemite.
It tastes like hatred. And
it's got the consistency of earwax. So
yeah, it does. Well, only the Western kind. If you're Asian, you have different earwax. Did you know that?
I didn't. I hadn't heard that about you.
I know all about bodily exudations for some reason. It's because I read Wikipedia all the time.
It's a lot of facts there.
I'm like a stupid trivia master.
It's excellent.
So,
I can't wait to have you in my trivia world. Maybe at PAX.
Yeah, we should play some Star Wars Trivial Pursuit. That would be
that would be so fun. I am not that good at that. Though I am a big fan of John Williams, and in my opinion, you are to way forward as John Williams is to Steven Spielberg. That's a compliment in my book, though I don't know what you think of John Williams.
I appreciate that. No, John Williams is my favorite film composer. Although he's probably tied with Jerry Goldsmith, you know, the Star Trek guy.
Sure.
But I like the John Williams of game music in the same way that I like, you know, the Citizen Kane of video games. I want to be. That's my goal.
Sure.
I think I'd rather end up as the Frank Zappa of video games, but yeah, there are a lot of John Williamses out there. There's a lot of guys writing orchestra stuff, and you know, I'm cool with that. But I do appreciate the comparison.
It's more not so much the style.
Yeah, it's the collaboration, right?
Yeah, it's the kind of you influencing the way Way Forward makes their games and them influencing the way you write music for them. I feel just like this kind of inherent marriage between you and them. Maybe you don't. I don't know. It's kind of weird to be like, it looks like you're married to someone, because that's more between you and them, but that's how it looks from the outside.
Well, we definitely please each other sexually frequently. Yeah, we go out and back and have smoke breaks, you know. Basically, when you cohabitate with somebody for long enough, you just start to pick up their mannerisms and, you know, and habits and whatnot. And so I've been working with these guys for 13 years now. And hang on, let me mute my phone because people are all like, Jake, why are you even on the camera? You're stupid. On the Twitters.
Oh sure, yeah, that's how Twitter friends are.
So we've been like working together forever. So it's, you know, we're pretty much like in bed at this point. It's good times.
Yeah, I bet it is, and it's reaping wonderful results. I can't wait to hear. Are you working on the Adventure Time game and the regular show game too?
In fact, I'm working on it right now. It's on my screen.
Really? I'm so curious about that. There's probably do not play the music agreement you had to sign with the people. And is your keyboard there? I see it out of the corner of my eye.
Yeah, I'm at my studio right now, and I wasn't. Yeah, like I said, I wasn't kidding before. I actually set that guy. He's like, man, you know, you might as well just rename your show Suck Way Forward. And I'm like, oh man, that guy told us. And so I set his picture as my desktop background tiled, because he's just cool, man. That guy's cool. I like that guy.
He's actually a great guy, but you know, there's a lot of suspicion that happens when you're in the video game press. People wonder if I'm like in bed with certain developers and giving them preferential treatment, I believe where it is. Though we met very, very briefly once at E3. I saw you. I don't know if you even saw me. I just waved at you. Oh. Yeah, you were rolling up with Yacht Club and at
cool.
Nintendo. Yeah, so you didn't even know me.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Well, I knew you, but I didn't know that you knew me. Like, I've been like following your stuff forever.
Oh, really? Likewise.
Okay,
so we do like each other's stuff a little bit, but there's
like
no favoritism towards
Way Forward. It's like, it's Way Forward. They're wondering if Way Forward is paying you. Dudes, they're not even paying me, so... No, I'm just kidding. Kidding. They do, but...
So we
Yeah,
should
there's-
start at the start. I kind of started us all over the place. That's nice that people got a feel for you. I think at this point in the show, people have
Yeah,
a
they're
feel
like,
for Jake.
F this
Kaufman.
guy, I'm disconnecting. This is stupid.
You make music and sounds, and you've been doing it for quite some time now.
Yeah,
2000, according to what I read about you, the
60
year
years.
2000 was your first. was your first game 13 years ago in the year 2000?
Yeah, well, that was the first one that actually got published and that I got paid for. I've been doing like little indie projects. Believe it or not, the indie gaming scene was around in the 90s even. You know, there were still people making, you know, just for fun projects. But they weren't tweeting about them as frequently. But I was doing music for hobbyist stuff since I was a kid. Basically, I had the occasional friend who would make art and I'd make music for his project, or basically I've been writing music my entire life is what it comes down to. And eventually somebody started giving me dollars for it.
Huh. What did you think you were when you were starting out, very young? I assume in your 3, 4, 5. Did you get this is something you were going to do for a long time, or was it something that you thought you would just play around with?
Funny you should mention this, and this is a bizarre coincidence, but I had a friend named Jonathan Holmes when I was a kid. I'm not even kidding. It wasn't you. He was a blonde. Okay, maybe it was you. No, you didn't grow up in Miami.
No, I didn't.
Anyway, and he and I would play Nintendo every day. Like I'd go over to his house. He was kind of the neighborhood bully until I showed him where to stand in Contra on the waterfall boss so that you don't get hit. You know, you could just fire up with your spread gun or whatever and not get hit. And it was like pulling the thorn out of the lion's paw. He just became like really nice, and like we were Nintendo buddies forever after that. And so at his house was when I decided, man, I'm really fascinated by this music and like Contra and Ninja Turtles. Like, I want to learn more about this. And so, ever since I first got my Nintendo, my mom would sit me down in front of the piano and be like, play Zelda 2 for me. I like when you play Link. And so I played an arrangement of it on the piano for my mom. Yeah, I was making OC remixes when I was 6, bitches. So, was it primarily game music that got you thinking, I want to make music from here? Oh, my cat's being it was game music. It was Michael Jackson CDs. It was film stuff. You know, I was really into TV show themes. Like my parlor trick was I can play like any TV show theme on the piano. You know, that's like my useless trick.
That's so useful. That is so, I often complain loudly to people who don't care at all, just passersby.
Yeah.
You know, like, why the hell don't they music like growing pains no more?
See, I could play that right now if I had my audio hooked up. I could play the Heathcliff theme, like whatever you're thinking about. I could probably call it up.
Wow. Is there a
Legends of the
test
Hidden
for?
Temple.
Oh, I've totally forgot about that one. I think a guy I know was on that. I think Anthony Carboni was on that show. I think so. I swear to God. I think he was.
Or as a host.
Yeah, as a young boy contestant.
Oh God, I want to see that.
Yeah. I'll see if I can find you a link, and he'd love to talk to you about it. I'm sure. He had a whole. He did a video interview about it not that long ago. I'll see if I can find. But anyway, there's a style of music that I feel was very respected and loved in the 80s and the early 90s. The incidental music for even like the original run of Transformers is like.
Oh yeah.
They put a lot of money into it. It's incredibly written. It's very. It's not intrusive, but it's catchy and infectious. That kind of music, I don't feel like always gets the kind of respect that it should these days. You don't see it in TV shows as often, but you're carrying that on in a lot of ways. Would you say that you were kind of born of that generation of thinking about music?
Yeah, back when they actually used live players and stuff, they would actually have a brass section or live violins, and it was special because it was live and it was great. It wasn't just churned out MIDI stuff. Not that I really mind that, but it was a certain, I guess, organic quality to it that is missing these days. And it started missing in the late 90s when everybody moved, everything is synthesized. And yeah, but in the 80s, in the Transformer stuff, there was a lot of really good music. And yeah, I agree with you. So, yes, a shorter version, yes.
And what do you think it is about that brand of music that clicked with your brain? What is the sensibility to it that made you think I want to carry that kind of thing forward?
I don't know if I actually really gave much conscious thought to it. It's more like just this is who I am. This is what has influenced me. This is what I've been listening to forever. This is just what I know. But then that's kind of a cop out because I did study music too, classical theory and all that stuff, and I didn't get into that world as much. So there's clearly something about it that's special, right? I don't know. Maybe it was just that it was just in the right place at the right time in my childhood where it kind of just clicked, whereas other things didn't. I study classical music from an academic perspective, or I study different types of things for other reasons. But this is the childhood. You can't really run away from that stuff.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a freaking man-child like me. So.
Well, I haven't known you for very long, but in this conversation already, I get this feeling that you care about communicating properly, but you also have like an inherent playful ridiculousness to you, which I think was in place in all those TV show themes and jingles and video game music as well. Like if the Mega Man music wasn't a little bit silly and wild, I would have just been so depressed all those times I got killed that I would have quit playing. Like out of all of my, I brought this up on the show before, that's like the series I always think of when I come up with examples for games that without the music they'd just be almost unplayable, especially the harder ones. Like you'd just be, I would completely give up on Mega Man 1 if I didn't love that music so much. And oh my god, I just remembered you're working with a composer,
right?
Mega Man 1.
Oh my god! Oh my god! She sent over the music. She sent her songs to us. I've heard them, and they're so good. They're so good. She hasn't lost a bit of her talent, and in fact has gotten more sophisticated because 25 years of practice. You think, oh my god, it's so good. John and I just we sat there in a room just playing it, and just staring at the screen, staring at the Winamp progress bar as it went, and just as it looped over and over again. It was so good. So yes.
It's an amazing feeling. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm trying to put myself in your shoes and picture. For me, it would be a mix of I'm so glad I get to work alongside this person, and also how am I going to do something that I like as much as what I like that I just heard? How can I live up to the standards of this person I grew up listening to their music? That would be an interesting spot to be in. How does that feel to be working alongside her on Shovel Knight?
Yeah, pretty much. That happens every time I meet one of my childhood heroes. I actually got to meet David Whittaker recently, and he did Maniac Mansion.
Oh wow!
Which is one of my favorites and my wife's favorite too. In fact, it was one of the things we first started talking about when we first started talking. And anyway, I met him, and I don't get starstruck that easily, but when I do, it's like I melt into just fangirl squee. It's terrible. But yeah,
I wonder what he's doing now. I'd be really curious to hear how his stuff sounds now that technology is advanced. And
I don't think he's actually writing music anymore. They're working on serious games like simulators and stuff for the corporate world or something like. I forget what he said because I was too busy slobbing his knob to really be an effective gatherer of data. It was
sure.
So but yeah, with Manami, I had to. In a moment of weakness, I wrote her just a longish 2 paragraphs of oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. I'm continuing to learn from you basically, even 25 years later, and how to make catchy melodies and still make the backing complex as well. So that's basically what I'm trying to say is she's still influencing me today. It's less a matter of living up to her quality bar, and more taking the information that just taking all the lessons that I can from her stuff. Because while I have improved, she's continued improving. So I don't think I'll ever actually get to that point. But I get a little better each time I hear something new of hers. So
That's awesome. It's interesting that it's such a hard question to phrase, but I'll try it this way. Do you feel like even if you felt like you were bad at making this music, and I have no idea, maybe you do think you're bad at it, maybe you're not impressed with yourself, would you end up just doing it anyway as long as people just let you do it? Like if other people paid you to write music, wrote it, and you're like, this is terrible, you shouldn't pay me for this. And they were just like, here, take the money. You'd be like, all right. Like, do you do it just for the spirit of loving to do it, or do you do it because you end up really enjoying your own work after you've completed it?
I think the goal is to enjoy my own work someday, to be able to write stuff at some point in my life that I'm really confident about as soon as I finish it. And that never happens, of course. It's like, you have to call it at some point because if you're facing time pressure, it's like, all right, I have to put this down and be done with it. And it's not as good as I want it to be. But someday, the goal, I don't think I'll ever actually reach this goal of being satisfied with my work, but it's something to work towards. Like, you can never achieve perfection, but that shouldn't stop you from chasing it.
Sure.
That's basically my approach to things. I sort of realize that I'm going to get the stuff done every time, and it's probably going to please the client or the way forward guy or whoever is asking for it, but I just don't know how when I sit down to write it. Like,
wow.
There's an underlying confidence, like, I'm sure I'm going to get this done, but right now it seems impossible. Every single time. You'd think by now I'd be able to be like, well, this has worked in the past. I have this method that I can use to get from point A to point B, but it's always like a freaking mystery. It's like I sit down and I'm like, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. So.
How long does that take once you're just looking at the blank page? What's the step you take after that, having no idea of where you're going to go yet? You just start placing notes down and hoping for the best, or do you sing something to yourself, or is it different every time?
Did you ever watch Heroes?
Oh, sure.
Okay, do you know Hiro, Hiro, the guy that can do the time traveling and stuff, where he just kind of concentrates and goes, "Arr!" and then gets a nosebleed? Like, pretty much that's what happens, dude. Like, I just sit there and I just think really hard, like, oh, action song, and I just imagine what an action song is in my head, and it's there with music. And I'm like, oh crap, gotta write it down as quick as I can, and that's what happens. Like, I'm not even kidding.
Huh. So, no, I believe you open up a space in your brain somehow. It gets filled from somewhere, and then you transcribe the stuff that shows up in there.
Yeah, my wife calls it head radio. She's like, turn on the head radio. I'm like, oh, okay. You got any weed?
I was just going to ask you, coffee or
coffee.
Anything else.
Coffee.
Helps inspire you.
Yeah. Coffee,
I had
totally.
a dream about. I had a similar situation to that. You might have actually heard this. I had a dream about a game that I hope Way Forward makes called Cat Girl Without Salad. I had a dream about the character designer for it in a weird room with all these live-action characters, and there's a little girl with a realistic purple and green tiger head serving her like cakes and stuff. And there was this little song in the back. It was like I barely remember smiling in my dreams, but I was just like, this is great in my dream. And there was a song in the background that went, soup for sale, la na na cuckoo poo poo da caca, and I was like, this song is incredible. And as soon as I woke up, I recorded it and sent it to the people that I hope someday make Cat Girl Without Salad, Adam Tierney forward.
Yeah, he needs to send that to me immediately, because I can make that real. I can actually do that. We should get Dale North to sing it.
That would be incredible.
Yes, in like the manliest, like, oh my god, this is gonna be amazing. See, okay, this is why I like working with Way Forward, and why I like working with Yacht Club, and why I like working with the guys I work with, is because we sit around and like BS and come up with the stupidest ideas, but they're not stupid, they're awesome. It's like, how awesome would it be if we could just do this, and then we do it. We actually do it.
Like the French singing in Mighty Milky Way. So good.
Yeah.
That was you, wasn't it?
No, well, yeah. It's French VO. we have French. She's French, and then I have a Vocaloid singing in Japanese. Bad like Google translated Japanese in the title theme.
I had no idea. I thought it was French this whole time.
Because why not? Well, she kind of has sort of like a Frenchish accent when she speaks English, which is just adorable. But
Yeah.
but I hadn't heard Vocaloid in games before, so I kind of wanted to put that in there. It's not Hatsune Miku. It's one of the other ones.
Huh, interesting. Yeah, absolutely loved that. That's a great game, but the soundtrack is my favorite of the game. Thank you for that. No, it's very, very good. That's one of the first games that woke me up to the fact that I recognized the style going back and playing other WayForward games that I heard it before, but that was one of the first games that kind of put you in the spotlight for me. And also
sweet.
playing the Adventure Time game you worked on, because I am a big fan of Rebecca Sugar and a lot of the music from Adventure Time, so I couldn't help but be like, I'm not sure if somebody outside of that would be able to meet that style, but also add something new to it. But you totally nailed it. I've listened to that opening theme song so many times.
Well, I appreciate that.
Is that you singing on that?
No, that's my good friend Tommy Pedrini. If you have heard the Final Fantasy VI Balance in Ruin album? If not, you totally should. I basically did an 8-minute rock opera of the opera house scene, and it's in the style of Queen, and yeah, you gotta hear it. Yeah, you should totally go get it. It's a lot of fun, and so. Yeah. One of my local friends, I actually met him through James Montaigne, who I think you talked to before, and he's got this gorgeous angelic voice, and we've worked together now a few times on things. He's like my go-to guy singer because he's just amazing, and that's him singing. So, Adam Tierney just sent me the song. Soup for sale. Nice.
You probably should. I'm not sure if it's a good song. It came to me.
Real.
That'll be something. That's hard to believe for me. That I think is so great. We'll take a dream song I accidentally had. Good in my dream. I don't know if it'll be good in your life. Well, thank you for even entertaining that idea. So I got ahead of myself again. So when did you start working on games professionally? Did you start doing remixes, and you said you'd worked with your friends on smaller games when you were younger. How did you make that leap into actually starting to get paid for it?
In the hobby scene that I was in, I was actually part of the demo scene, which is like a bunch of like Scandinavian nerds hanging out in a chat room and trying to one-up each other with more impressive graphical effects on their Amigas and whatnot. Yeah, it's a lot to take in, but it's basically they're basically making music videos on the computer that are rendered in real time. Using the nothing more than the processor of the computer to generate like crazy 3D effects and all kinds of flashing lights and colors and stuff. And anyway, I was part of that scene, and it turns out rather a lot of those guys got into the game industry because the skills kind of translate. If you're programming graphical effects on a PC in the 90s, you could probably make a rendering engine for a video game, and so a lot of them did. I think Factor 5 pretty much started out in the demo scene. The guys that made Max Payne, Remedy, they were the Future Crew. They made like one of the most popular demos of all time, and then they went on to make Max Payne. So a lot of the technical skills and the creative skills really translate over. And one way in which that is true is music. We use this like super crappy spreadsheet style composition program called a Tracker. It looks like Excel, and you write the notes from top to bottom, and it reads it from top to bottom. It says like play C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. You know.
It's not impossible to use. You use that.
Yeah, if you saw me use it, you'd probably think that I was like balancing a checkbook or something. It's totally non-intuitive. But like me and a bunch of other freaks like learn how to use this stuff, and it just so happens that it's really optimized for making tiny little songs on an old ass computer or a Game Boy. So, we made a sound engine for the Game Boy. A couple of my friends, a friend of a friend, programmed a sound engine for the Game Boy Color, and then they decided to sell that sound engine along with composing services, which was kind of a popular thing to do back in the day. It's like, here, we'll give you the sound code and music and sound effects to go with it. And so, who do you know who writes music that could work with this kind of stuff? Oh, my buddy Jake. Hey, there you go. So we started bidding on a bunch of stuff. We bid on a Popeye game that we totally, for some reason, mysterious reason, we didn't get, and the project fell through. And eventually, we got this little game called Shantae. From my buddy's old friend Mac Bozon was working on a game. You know, hey, let's help him out. Let's do this little game for him. And the rest is, as they say, history.
That was your first game?
No, it was the first one that I'd say that was really satisfying and big. That sort of went beyond being a licensed European style game, and was like an original. It was the first original IP I really worked on. Like I did Qbert and Millionaire, and I think you mentioned David Beckham's Soccer.
Yeah,
that was fun.
You've written music that Popeye has probably heard, which is pretty incredible. Not many people can say that, because David Beckham's probably like, check out my game when they started dating, and she was playing it and listening to what you wrote. How was it to write music for David Beckham?
Hang on, my nose is bleeding. I gotta go. I gotta go rub
Probably.
now.
Probably even Baby Spice has probably heard it at this point.
Oh my god, dude, this is special.
I know. This is beautiful.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Well, I'd say we're mutual fans because I like their music too. I'm not even kidding.
Cute stuff.
I do. I have a soft spot for bubblegum pop.
Yeah, I can see why.
Probably,
It's so.
yes.
Well, it's so. The thing about it is, your work, to me, it's very technically skilled, but there's a humility to it and an honesty removed from any attempt to be very, very technically impressive. It's just technically impressive enough to get the feeling across, and it really punches hard with feeling in the way that pop music often does. Though on your live shows on YouTube, sometimes there you bring in stuff that's just dizzyingly complicated and stuff that I could never ever dream of conceiving of, let alone being able to sing to myself later on, just because it's so
it's because I want people to
complex and
leave.
really perfect for a live show.
I just want to scare people off.
Oh, it's great.
I don't want to have to
It's great.
If there's anyone left in the audience by the time I'm done, I feel depressed. Like I haven't done my job properly. Well, okay, so it's on the one hand I like dream theater, and I like crazy jazz improv, and I like super complicated stuff, and I like jazz fusion and stuff. On the other hand, I like Rafi, and Sharon Lewis and Bram and the Elephant. I have conflicting tastes. On the one hand, I like the really super complex academic stuff that you have to study. You have to be a musician to get it, right? And then I like the stuff that's super accessible, because sometimes that's even harder. It's hard to study music theory and master an instrument, but it's also really hard to communicate to people in a way that everyone can understand. And you hear Banana Phone, and it doesn't take any musical training whatsoever to appreciate Banana Phone. And in fact, even if you don't want to appreciate it, too bad. It's going to be stuck in your head.
I've heard Banana Phone a ton of times. Oh yeah,
yes.
For people who don't know it, maybe we should sing it, because they might not be familiar.
All right, on count three. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ring, 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 ring. Banana phone. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding. Banana phone. Ah, that's my favorite.
Bananular? Isn't that they made up the word bananular?
It's cellular, modular, interactive, modular. So I like kids music, and I like pop stuff because it's carefully calculated. It's made by scientists in a lab with chemicals, in order to be perfectly. It's I don't know exactly how to describe it, but there's a giant appeal there that I want to try to capture.
Food metaphor might be in order. To me, a lot of the theater stuff is designer, expertly crafted little portion steak or some other exotic treat, whereas pop music can just be like the best French fry.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
how did you do this? How did you do this
It's
French
like
fry?
working person's food, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And there's
Yeah,
nothing wrong
and
with that.
everybody likes it.
Well, you hear a
Absolutely.
lot of people looking down on it because they're pretentious snobs and they're classist idiots, but we're not going to get into that now. We can have an entirely different sociological debate on why people look down on, country music and rap and stuff, but I freaking love all of it. Like, all of it. There's good music in every single genre, and I stand by that. Even the craziest, black metal, hatred core, or 9,000 BPM terror trance from hell. There's still good stuff out there. It really comes from people being passionate about the music, right? When they really get into it and put their life's work into it, they're gonna get good at it eventually, and they're gonna make something that people want to hear. So I firmly believe in actually liking everything instead of just saying you do, except country music, the stuff that the lesser people listen to.
Right. Well, everything is. We all are capable of any mood ever, and I'd like to think that we're all capable of empathizing with any human being ever. So if they are putting across who they are in their music in a way that affects us, then we should be able to be open to feeling like a cowboy every once in a while. We shouldn't say, "Oh, I'm too good for cowboys."
Yeah,
Cowboy's just a guy with a hat on.
He's
Yeah.
just a guy with a hat who he's got a job to do, right?
Right. We can
and-
all relate with that.
Yeah, I was listening to, was it Radiolab or one of these shows that was talking about how like country music is like stupidly popular in like Africa and developing Asia because it's like people. It's like telling stories about human beings that have things in their life. Everybody has heartbreak, everybody has longing, everybody has tacos. There's like common human things that we all share. Yeah.
It's weird. I almost for the post for the Destructoid, I almost said something about tacos, but
I had like
said I
7
wanted
before I
bacon.
came over here.
You've had really tacos?
Yeah, I had a choice. I could either shave, or I could eat like 6 Dorito tacos. So my majestic beard remains, and I
think
wearing,
it looks very nice.
my shirt was white before I came over here, so
Is that all taco on your shirt?
it's Dorito powder. It's delicious Dorito powder.
It does sound delicious. That's so weird. I was thinking about tacos with you, but I went with bacon because I thought that would draw a bigger crowd. Tacos are a little bit controversial sometimes. Speaking of country music, you before the show you were telling me that you're working on the soundtrack for a country video game. Is that right?
Yes, I am working on the soundtrack for Boot Hill Heroes. It is a spaghetti western RPG, with Super Nintendo style graphics. Yeah, I can't even there's no other explanation. That's literally all it is.
Is it like a turn-based RPG?
Yeah, it has a similar graphical look and combat style to Earthbound, but sort of augmented with a sort of actiony, almost real-time kind of turn-based dealy. Yeah, that was a terrible explanation.
No. It's good. Turn-based dealy. I know what you mean.
Yeah, you know.
Is it? Absolutely. Is the writing for the game anything like Earthbound? Does it have that similar kind of farcical, serious but silly feel combo?
It definitely does have a sillier feel. It also has. I guess it gets a little more serious because you're fighting a gang of. I don't want to spoil the story, but you're basically fighting a gang of super badass outlaws who basically killed your dad, and it's you have to go out into the world and you find the lone stranger and you partner up with him. You basically have a party made up of various anti-heroes and outcasts, and yeah, it's similar in scope and story to Earthbound, but I guess it's a little bit broader in its dramatic. I don't know. I'm just being dumb. It's basically
No, you're being smart. Sounds great. Sounds. I like Mother 3 a lot as well, and in the beginning of Mother 3 has a definite back to the roots of what it was before technology kind of changed the way people think. And it would be nice to get back to that feeling in a Super Nintendo style game. Boot Hill Heroes, you said?
Yeah. it was a Kickstarter, and it was successful, and they were able to hire me, and I've been working on it for a few months now. It's going to be about 2 hours of music. The soundtrack is going to be available for free on my Bandcamp, the way everything else is, with donations optional, and because that's how I roll. And I don't know exactly when it's coming out, but soon, hopefully.
Is the game? How far is the game along in terms of like how much of it can you currently play? If you had to guess.
I'd say maybe 10 hours ish.
Wow.
It's It's a long RPG. There's a lot of content in it. It's stupidly ambitious for a first project. But when I saw the amount of heart that went into it, I had to like, hey guys, you need music? I'll do it for super cheap. I do a lot of that. If I see a project that looks really freaking awesome to me, like even if it's free, I don't even care. Like I just want to work on it. That's my
You shouldn't
philosophy.
tell too many people that. Yeah, but I'd imagine you are very busy. So
if there are a million
you can't always-
awesome games out there being made, and I get to work on like 30 of them, great. That's awesome. Like I don't even care how busy I am. Like if there's something cool, I just want to do it. I just want to work on it. That's my drive because I'm a fan first and like a working man second. So when I see something that looks incredible, I'm like, whoa! I want to help that be even more incredible by writing, dumbass disco house for it.
But people shouldn't feel too bad if people do ask you, "Hey, will you make the music for my new Hangman blood effects, blood code?" They shouldn't be too insulted if you say, "Oh, I don't have to do that right now. Sorry," because you are working on a lot of different things. Doesn't mean their game is bad. You don't want to hurt anybody.
Yeah, it doesn't. But I mean, if it is bad, I'll tell them how to make it less bad. Maybe give them some advice. Like, hey, why don't you work on the mechanics? I don't ever want to like shut anyone down without at least offering some sort of help or pointing them at maybe a friend who is hard up for work or wants to expand his skills. Like, hey, why don't you work with this person? I'm like about to die right now. I'm writing you this email reply from the hospital where I went because I worked too much. But hey, check out this dude.
Speaking of
I want
other
my friends to be successful.
Who are some of the other composers people should keep an eye out? Because for whatever reason, I like to think it's because you're good. But there are a lot of great composers that people just haven't heard of for whatever reason. Part of the reason I'd say Disaster Piece, Danny, you're some of the names that people tend to recognize more quickly. Almost rock star-ish, and I definitely want to get to that as well, what it's like to be, in certain circles, kind of famous for writing video game music. That's kind of an amazing new thing that only come about in the past maybe 15 years or so. But some of the other composers you think people should be keeping an eye out for?
Let's see. Well, even if Disaster Piece and Danny B are already semi-well known, I want them to become more well known. So if anybody listening doesn't already know about Rich Disaster Piece Breland, or Danny Baranowski, aka Danny B, or Big Giant Circles Jimmy Henson, or Tony the Sandbox Marino, he's a newcomer, a new challenger, but he's going to be out there. They should definitely check out all their stuff. Like, the Fez soundtrack alone is just mesmerizingly good. It's just incredibly, incredibly good, and so well suited for the game. And those are two separate but very important things. Anyway, there are a number of up and coming guys that are cool. And I think I should do a follow Sunday on Twitter thing where I just link to a bunch of new ones. So if you follow me, I'll start linking you to composers that are good.
Awesome.
Sometimes I just know them by their Twitter handles and I don't actually know their full names. So, but yeah, the ones you named, and in addition to Big Giant Circles, are like super badass guys as far as I'm concerned.
Is that a group of guys who all compose together? Or is that kind of a
we're just
music gang?
Kind of buddies. Most of us come from OCR, OC Remix back in the day. We've been doing the hobbyist thing forever. and a few of us just made the leap into semi-pro or full pro, or various degrees thereof.
What do you think that sound software that you helped design? You helped make it for the Game Boy? What was that called?
Beyond Tracker. It's the spreadsheet looking one, right?
Uh-huh.
They made an early version of it, and then I used it every day for like work. So I gave them suggestions on how to improve it, and eventually we did one for Game Boy Advance, and I sort of like sat down with a guy and talked to him about all the features that I needed to make non-sucky soundtracks, and then he said no, because that's what programmers do. They say no.
They shouldn't, probably, or maybe they should. I don't know. I don't know enough about it, but I get worried when I feel like the music. This speaks to something else I wanted to ask. I feel like so often the music gets seen as like something that you have to have, but sometimes programmers or publishers or directors don't want to have music. They just like focus on the thing I did. Oh, we have to put music in there. That's going to detract from people paying attention to me. But all right, this high guy have him do some bleeps and bloops or some catchy beats for the kids, and then they just get treated like an afterthought. I don't know if that's happened to you much, but if it has, I'd want to hear about.
They just hit me with hammers. They just beat me with things. They just abused me terribly. No, do you play Dark Souls?
Sure,
Okay,
I played it.
That's my answer to that. Is just freaking Dark Souls. The music comes in when it needs to, when you're at Firelink Shrine, or when you're fighting a boss, and the rest of the time it shuts the hell up and gets out of the way. And it should. I think it's brilliant. I think it's beautiful. There's a time and a place to have music, and that time and place isn't everywhere and always. Like, I'm a big fan of using silence to punctuate stuff, or to even be the default, and then you have music come in when it's appropriate. Like in movies, there isn't a musical score happening the entire time. I think we just grew up having background music play in the background of all these platformers, and pretty much every game has music playing at all times. That's not true either, but I can't think of any counterexamples. Caveman games. There's a good one. Yeah, you're throwing your the wife toss, I think they call it, or you have to throw the girl by doing like a hammer toss, and there's no music for that. So double dribble, like a lot of sports games didn't have music.
Yeah, but the music would come in. Yeah.
Yeah, it would eventually. It is an afterthought, and sometimes people don't pay enough attention. My biggest gripe is like when nobody even thinks about music as part of the marketing plan, because I mean, you probably noticed, but I like releasing soundtracks. And for a big publisher, that could be impossible if you don't mention it at the beginning of the project, because nobody's planned for it. It's not in the contract anywhere. There's no legal stuff, and it just gets swept under the rug, and nobody wants to spend any time or attention on it. And therefore, I can't publish a soundtrack at that point because I don't have permission to. It's kind of what we're dealing with on DuckTales right now. I'm trying to get some sign of life from Disney that they're interested in letting me do this, but so far nothing.
That's disappointing.
If it had been in the contract from the start, then it wouldn't have even been an issue. So I'm trying to get people to be more cognizant of music as part of the overall picture, and something that you can use to help market the game. Because when people hear the M word, dropping them M bombs, marketing, they start paying it more attention.
Mm-hmm. I feel like the larger publishers, the older publishers, the older and larger they are together, the less likely they are to understand this whole underground's a little bit too far down, but it's definitely not on MTV, not on TV in general, subculture of people who will go to a Jake Kaufman concert. And it's not just a few people who kind of care. It's thousands and thousands of people who have a lot of potential offline influence. They're talking to each other, talking to people who don't have that passion for that, but they haven't heard about it yet, and saying, "Hey, you should buy the new DuckTales game just for the music." I've seen that plenty of times online, but I don't know if Disney might be too many steps removed from that. unfortunately, to know that you're going to be playing a show at PAX, and I'm guessing it's going to be a full house, and it's going to be a lot of people. Yeah, I'm
That's
betting.
a lot of people to scare away. Once I start playing dubstep, I'm totally gonna. It's gonna be 100% dubstep, and people can like it or not. It's gonna be.
Is it really?
It's gonna be fun. No, not really, but maybe. Maybe.
It's funny how dubstep has become kind of. It seems like these trends are turning around quicker and quicker. It used to be if you like dubstep, that meant you were on the inside track of something. And now if you say you like dubstep, people think you're just kind of a tag-along follower. I remember when it was in Bit Trip Fate. I don't know if you ever played that video game. It's pretty neat.
I love all the Bit Trip stuff.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of the company, too. I want to work with those guys someday, but I don't think they know me. Like, we always say hi to each other, but I don't think they've actually know who I like, what I do and stuff. Do you know who I am?
I bet they know who you are. I know who they are.
Check it out, bitch!
And the composer, I know him pretty well. Worked on the Bit Trip series. His name is Harwood. He's an amazing dude. I think you'd get along with him very well. Matt Harwood. He had been a secret, actually, talking about marketing and whatnot and bigger publishers. He was working on Homefront, a big orchestral score for that. Putting in overtime, sleeping in the office on that, but had to keep a lot of his work a secret on the Bit Trip series at the time because, for various reasons that I don't fully understand, actually. So nobody knew he did the Bit Trip music, which he pretty much did just because he had total creative freedom and loved the guys that were working on it, and as a result, pretty neat music. Some of my favorite music in recent video games.
Huh. Oh, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I was researching just now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I don't think we've actually hung out. I thought for a minute there I got him confused with Stephen Harwood, who's another friend of mine. But yeah, I know they put stuff in there from from BitShifter, and I think there was an Anamanaguchi track in there at one point. They've really sort of harvested the chip community.
Sure. What do you think of the where the chip community has gone, having been a part of it for so long? And was the music software you designed for the Game Boy, was that used by any chiptune people in concert after that? Because I feel like I've heard of that. I feel like guys have come up to me with that.
I think there are a few guys who screw around with it, recreationally, but the big thing everyone uses is Little Sound DJ, which is you actually use it on the Game Boy itself instead of it being a PC program, and you write music on the actual Game Boy while you're holding it in your hands. And but it's a similar style of spreadsheet interface. It's another form of tracker software, but it's used on the Game Boy, and that's the one that people use. This was more Beyond Tracker was more of a a Ford game specifically kind of thing, and it didn't have all the different. It was more general purpose, whereas LSDJ is sort of focused towards live performance and musicians and stuff like that. And you have Nano Loop 2, which is also run on the Game Boy, and you have a bunch of little boxes and squiggly patterns on the screen, and you have to arrange them into a song. And I don't understand that at all, but it sounds brilliant. That's what BitShifter uses, and Bubbly Fish, and a bunch of other really good chip people use Nano Loop, and it has a different sound. And I like that sound. So no, I don't think anybody used the Beyond Tracker for actual concerts and stuff.
Not yet.
We're not
now
there.
They will.
Yeah, no, not yet. Yeah. I did a remix of the Thong Song. You remember the Thong Song? That.
Absolutely.
Thong. Yeah, I did that in the Beyond Tracker, and I played that in concert. So there's one. Once.
Can I find it online?
Yeah, it's on my website. Yeah, I archive everything because I want my shame to be timeless. I don't want to ever forget that I was and still am just a total jackass. And if I ever remove my stuff out of I'm ashamed of my old music, it's like me kicking my 15-year-old self in the balls. Why would you? I'm not ashamed specifically of who I was. I'm just ashamed in general, and that never changes. So. It's all
So
out
you're
there for
equally
you.
ashamed. Yeah.
So it's all out there. All my early stuff, the stuff from the '90s. You know, I want people to send me email. They're like, "Man, I love that new song you released," and it's like from 10 years ago. I don't like your newer stuff though.
I want to make sure I get this in. It is sad for me that you can't experience your music from my perspective. I'm just like, oh, every time I hear a new song by you, like, oh, everything turned out so great, everything's perfect. Where when you hear it, you're probably like, oops, oh, I wish I could do that again. I wish I could fix that. Maybe someday, maybe I can wipe your memory of who you are and what you've written.
You just hit me really hard in the head, and that's all it takes.
Yeah, I'm tempted to do that.
I don't know. I get that feeling briefly. Like it's like you know, if you do drugs and you're addicted to drugs, which I don't do ever. If you because winners don't do drugs.
They don't.
No, you know how the high gets shorter and shorter each time, and you have to do more and more of it. It's like that with the music stuff. It's like I feel that like rush, like yeah, I freaking did this. I can't believe it turned out so good. Oh, this is awesome. And I'll take a walk outside, and I'll just be like Godzilla walking through the streets and stuff. Like this is so cool. Yeah, I freaking did it. And then by the time I get back home, I'm like, how am I gonna outdo this next?
That's the thing about it. It's so fleeting. That moment where you actually are, that moment standing on the podium and holding the trophy above your head in your mind, thinking, I did the thing I wanted to do. It only lasts until you have to start working on the next thing. Which
I literally have that trophy feeling here. Wait, watch. Oh, hang on.
Hanging.
I literally have that experience with a trophy because this is what I click that link.
Click a link? Oh,
yeah, no.
It gave me a link. I'm clicking on it. I'll put this in the post later. Redirect them. That's you! For people who, wow, that could really be badly abused by perverts, internet perverts.
I really hope it is. Yes!
There's a picture of little Jake Kaufman holding a golden trophy, and he is so... It's spelling bee, too. Oh, did you spell better than the other people?
I was a spelling bee champ. I guess it uses the same part of my memory that music does, because my mom would like recite words to me, the spelling words out of the spelling book, and I just remember how they sounded, and so I could remember any word, the spelling of any word. Like I have some weird autistic thing going on in my memory thing. It doesn't work like that for visuals. It's not a photographic memory. It's like a phonographic memory of some sort.
Phonograph. I mean the pattern. Huh.
It's the same thing that powers the TV show themes thing. Where I can recall things I hear, but I can't recall things I see.
Huh.
So yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, I'm glad you're in the business you're in. It's weird. I was just at a house cooling party last night, and they forced us to do a spelling bee, and I did. You would have done great. I did all right. I misspelled I think one word, and it was pretty hard. But they did a special section of the spelling bee where we had to watch a video on College Humor that had the fart spelling bee. I don't know if you're familiar with this.
Yes.
You are familiar with the fart spelling bee? That's my friend's ex-boyfriend came up with that.
Wow.
So we had to watch the video, and then people farted, and then we had to spell their farts, just like in the video.
Wow.
It was hard. Yeah. It's like
P-H-B.
Yeah, P-H-U, P-H-U, like... It was another one. It was hard. A bunch of quotes came in, and I'm just doing fart sounds. And I didn't even get to ask you what it's been like to become a live performer, if that's something that was always a part of your repertoire, doing live shows, and how you've grown. I do want to ask that before I get to the reader questions, though. Okay, so do you remember the first show you did doing your own original style of music?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah? When was that? What was that like?
Well, it was 2006 and in New York City, and I was friends with Null Sleep and Bitshifter and Anna Managuchi and all those guys in the New York chip scene, and they're like, you should play a show, and I'm like, no. All right, fine. Actually, no, that was the first time I really played as like like actively, but I actually played at I think E3 '05, one of those things. Anyway, it was a freaking long time ago, and I was way over prepared. I bought a lighting system with like 4 LED colored lights that I could program to any color using, and I'm not even making this up. It's called DMX. It's like the lighting. It's like the MIDI of lighting. Like you send signals to it, and you can turn it green or red or whatever. Turn it like full intensity or low intensity, and you can actually make like timed sequences. It's like if you ever see like an award show and like the lights are like twisting down on the things and whatever. That's all controlled through like this MIDI-ish system. And so I bought one of those and programmed it to like go with all the music and stuff. Like, I'd hit a chord and it would be like, Thriller, and like the lights would go red, green, and so there were like 800 cables, and I had to take it through the subway system in like a granny grocery cart, one of those like red wire carts, and one cable missing would have ruined the entire show. And then I blew up the speaker as well. Like as soon as I started playing, the speaker's like, I'm like, okay. So it was the bassiest show in history. It was a disaster, and I loved every second of it. Oh, also, I was wearing a big fuzzy white hat and a jacket. And that was a terrible idea because I was sweating like an idiot the entire time. Like, you just make these stupid mistakes.
Sure,
like,
you're very hot.
You're trying to be all cool and stuff. Like, I'm gonna do this cool thing, and then it turns out to be ridiculously misguided. And you learn from it, right? You just don't do the same thing again. So yeah. Since then, I've dramatically simplified my setup. It's just a laptop, this thing that I'm talking to you on right now, in fact, and a MIDI controller, and that's it. And I just shred on the MIDI controller over a back.
And you're playing live over what's coming out of the PC, is that right?
Yeah, I'll mute a part of the song, like the melody or the bass line or the drums or whatever, and I'll just play that part live. If there were 4 of me, I could do the whole thing. Or 6 if it's a TurboGrafx 16 song. That was a little joke for the chiptune guys out there.
And how has that been to... Don't be disappointed, I liked it. I'm a big TurboGrafx 16 music aficionado. So
Dude,
I was right there.
Splatterhouse.
Are you kidding me?
Oh my god!
So effective!
It's
Every
so
time
good.
I hear it. Oh, I feel like I'm going to throw up. I feel like there's vomit on me. Oh, yeah. So good.
It's so spooky, dude. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's incredible. That first level, in particular, takes me right there.
Yeah, that was one of my first memories about game music where I'm like, oh god, there's more to this than I thought. Like, hearing the TurboGrafx for the first time on my friend's big screen TV and like giant ass like Maniac Mansion green tentacle speakers with like the big Teenage X badge on it. Oh my god! I almost passed out. It was so crazy. I heard Keith Courage start. It was like dun 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 dun. I just can't.
Yeah, I love that music too. There wasn't a ton of music as I remember on Keith Courage. There was opening the village music, and then just you're playing a level music, which is really, really good.
One of the best sound effects I've ever heard in any game ever is when you're in the power, you get in the power suit, the big rainbow comes out.
I wouldn't play that again. It's sad that TurboGrafx is so under. It just wasn't cool to people. That wasn't where people wanted to go at that time. But I loved it.
It was big in Japan because there
That's
was a lot
where I
of
first
porn
played
on
it.
There was a lot.
Is that right?
Yeah, the TurboGrafx CD was like Pornland, Pornlandia. It was great.
I had no idea. I had East Book 1 and 2. I had a couple of other TurboGrafx CD games. The Ideal Utopia. You remember that guy?
Yep.
I wanted to be that. Talking about East. Be a good job. But anyway, I did want to ask what it's been like to be a part of this emerging scene of music with very diehard fans who consider you. I've read YouTube comments about you saying that you're the next Beethoven, for Christ's sakes. It's got to be quite a feeling. Yeah, how is it to be a part of this thing? Because I'm of the opinion that music is very music that's supposed to make millions has become quite homogenized. It's very interesting from a craft perspective to see how they come up with things that are going to appeal to a lot of people, just enough to get the money. But it has caused it's a lot harder for something like punk rock or hip hop to be born in today's mainstream music scene. But chiptune is as close as I know of for something to kind of come from the underground. Hasn't hit mainstream radio quite yet, but it feels the way punk rock and hip hop did in the 80s and 90s. So how has that been to be a part of that kind of slowly burring up from the underground scene?
Well, it's really because mainstream radio is dead. Like, nobody cares anymore. Like, people listen to way more music on YouTube than they ever did on radio. Like, on YouTube, they're listening to music, even though it's a video site. It baffles me, but like, that's where people go. So if you want people to hear your music, you put it up on YouTube, or you get a SoundCloud. The thing about the punk and hip hop scenes that gets me is like, there's even more stuff coming out today, and there are more people doing this stuff because the tech is democratized. It's so easy. You just get GarageBand and you can make a full quality album, like on your computer, for like a few bucks. You know, beyond the cost of the computer, obviously, you can get stuff to plug a guitar directly into your laptop or your iPad. You can make an album. All right, the guy that played the drums on Adventure Time, Hey Ice King, in the title theme, is this badass drummer. He's like unbelievably amazing. I mean, you heard the song. He's just awesome. He showed me his iPhone, and he had like 20 songs that he had made on the iPhone that easily could be on an album. Like, entirely on the iPhone. He made them in GarageBand. So it's like this tech is like here. It's popular. It's here. It's easy to use and it's cheap. So there's even more stuff coming out these days, but it's not being promoted through Warner Brothers Music or Universal or any of the big labels. It's just going directly to the fans through Bandcamp or through even through iTunes with self-publishing stuff. So you have this sort of direct. It's like a really good time to be an indie artist because you have this direct line where you can market your stuff directly to people without having to go through some corporate publisher somewhere. So that's, and then chiptune stuff really never existed in that world of labels and corporations. It was always a direct sort of grassroots, direct to fans kind of thing because pretty much nobody likes it. So. And now people are starting to like it. It's starting to become like cooler, but we don't need to even screw around with big corporate distribution and labels and stuff. You can go to Anamanaguchi's site and just get their album directly from them, and they make 100% of the profits or 90% or whatever PayPal takes. And so you may reach less of an audience that way, but the audience that you reach is going to be passionate. That's not just going to be a bunch of zombies watching MTV passively. They're people who want to go out and get your stuff. So your fan base is like 100% passionate about what you're doing. I don't know. It feels more like pure fans instead of casual fans that are interested.
And do you think it's inevitable that Warner Brothers is going to wake up to that, or some company is going to wake up to that and be like, that's where the passion is? So that's where the money potentially could be. Everyone wants to latch onto something that's genuine and pure and real. People like dubstep, when they thought, oh, this was music was made because they didn't think they'd get rich off this. Who's going to get rich off? That's not going to sell. So they must be doing it because they mean it. But now everyone's doing it because they think everyone else thinks it makes it look like you're genuine, and that's how you get money. So they're going to wise up to the Jake Kaufman way to become a millionaire these days. And they're going to be knocking on your door, being like, "Help us be rich too, Jake Kaufman. Make the new Kanye album."
Considering, oh man, yeah, I can be just like Kanye. Dude, I bet that guy is like a genius producer when he gets into the studio. He's probably like a freaking nerd, and he puts on the whole the whole persona thing in public, and then he gets back into his studio and just fires up his Linux console. Dude, I bet that guy's like a super like Trogdor nerd when he gets back into his studio. I'm gonna keep thinking that. Yeah, but all right. So Warner Brothers pays my employers sometimes, and they pay my salary. So I'm gonna wish them all the luck in the world. I hope
That's great.
I hope their business model evolves to the point where they can keep up with the online methods of distribution and whatnot. And I hope they continue to employ us. It'll be nice.
Sure, absolutely. I'm glad that they are. And Warner Brothers makes some great games a lot of times.
See,
But
what
do
I
you
really
think
hope
that
is... Go ahead.
No, you.
Oh, okay. What I really hope is that WayForward's original IPs take off so much and make like $1 billion, so we never have to do another licensed game again.
Mm-hmm.
I really hope
But
so.
you've got to, except for stuff like Contra, because that was pretty awesome. Will you make more Contra, please?
If it's a video game license, yeah, I'm down. If it's an existing license that we're reviving or remaking, that's cool. But not like TV shows and stuff like that. I don't want to do anymore.
Yeah.
Like breakfast cereals, Count Chocula. No, dude, I would do a Count Chocula game. I take it back. Dude, imagine the most like epic Castlevania soundtrack. I would totally do Count Chocula. Frankenberry.
Would you be Chocula, or would you battle him? Would you have to battle all the cookies? Oh, and they're bringing back
son. You'd be his son.
Count Alucardula.
You'd be Count Alucard. Alucard. I just typed it backwards to find out what it would be. You'd be Alucard.
Why hasn't anyone made the Alucard game yet? Oh my god.
I'm going to.
It's just a matter of time now. Yes.
Yeah.
Please, I do hope
I'd
so.
rather do original stuff, because like the reason I moved across the country was, you know, as much fun as I had on Batman the Brave and the Bold, it wasn't to do Batman the Brave and the Bold. It was to do Shantae. Actually, it was to do Batman the Brave and the Bold. That's when they made me the job offer. Like when I turned them down for that, I was like, sorry, too busy. They're like, come work for us. I'm like, no. They're like, don't care. We're sending a moving truck tomorrow. And
I actually don't remember seeing Batman Brave and the Bold on your resume. Did you work on that too?
Yeah, both versions. The version that Sean directed and the version that Adam Tierney directed, which were completely and utterly different games, not even remotely related, other than having similar characters. One was the DS version was like this 16-bit platformer beat 'em up with almost no cutscenes or dialogue, and the Wii version was like an episode of the cartoon show in a platformer format, and they were talking the entire time while they're kicking ass and stuff. It's like, oh, you have a crush on Catgirl, don't you? Shut up, Robin. You know. Yeah, I like both of them, but I had to write completely separate soundtracks for each one. One was basically a Super Nintendo soundtrack, and the other one was Crime Jazz, the album.
And you were working on both of those at the same time?
At the same time.
Oh, man. How many projects can you... Like, how many minutes of music do you think you write a year? Is that impossible to calculate?
No, nothing's impossible to tabulate, but I don't know. It would take a lot of calculations.
Yeah.
In 07 or so, I was like 10 projects at once, and that was, I think, my maximum. I pretty much almost ended up in the morgue. It was bad.
I bet. How do you keep squeezing the juice out of the brain, putting the notes into the thing?
I don't know. I get a lot of nosebleeds.
I guess.
Take a lot of Adderall. I don't know, man. If there's something that's important to do, I'm gonna put other stuff off to the side and just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like sleep, screw social life. It sucks sometimes because I just want to kick back and just relax, play some Dark Souls, and just not even think about anything else. You know.
Sure.
So I gotta make time. I gotta make time for that. Like I make time to hang out with the wife, and we go out and do stuff and have date nights and sometimes see friends. But yeah, a lot of it is just I'm in my studio almost all of my life is spent here.
I'd imagine.
Yeah.
And hopefully you'll look back. You know, it's great that I had those 10 years of working nonstop. But for most composers I know, after a little while, they tend to. They're lucky enough to be able to slow down a little bit and just do a couple projects a year. Spend a lot of time just taking things in. So maybe you'll do that. Who knows?
I don't know how.
It's
honestly, like I see all these composers and they have like one credit listed in 2012, and I'm like, what the hell? How do you pay rent every month? Like if I don't make at least like $1,500 a month, I'm homeless, like literally homeless, and because that's what freaking apartments in Los Angeles. and then that's not even counting food and like feeding my freaking dog who never stops eating, and then my wife and she stops eating. But we have to fill our cars up. It's like incredibly expensive to live. Like, how do you not work all the time? And then I ask them that, and they just like smile at me and just walk away. So I never get a straight answer.
I think they get paid a
cooking
lot.
meth. Maybe they're cooking meth. They're probably cooking meth. My wife's a chemistry major, so she can do that in a couple of years. She can just cook meth.
You would be sad at her though, if you did, because I don't know. On Breaking Bad, the wife seems pretty annoyed. You'd be that annoyed wife in the studio.
I don't know. Yeah, I think I'd be okay because I don't have to. I don't have to work on like iPhone games all the time. Yeah.
Or maybe these way forward properties, I hope, will become so huge that you will just become the next Koji Kondo. I think he only works on a project a couple times a year. That would be neat.
I guess I'm their audio director now. I'm like their, overseer of all things audio. But I just don't feel like it because I just want to be in the trenches and not managerial. Like I want to actually make stuff instead of just doing spreadsheets and emails and stuff. So I never really got on a management track. But in general, with me, it's way more about the fun than the money, so I tend to charge less than I maybe should, given my experience level. But screw it, man. Let's have some fun, right?
Well, you still can. Yeah, someday you probably won't be able to. You might have like 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 kids. You might have 8 kids. At that
I'm going to
point,
have like 8 kids. Just pop them out.
You just have them.
I don't want to get pregnant now. I can't do this. I have too much on my plate.
I feel like a jerk. I've ignored these questions. I'm going to ask them finally now. They've been sitting there for a while. Infinity Send asks, I absolutely love FX4. Is an FX5 in the works?
Yeah, it totally is. No. All right, so are you familiar with the FX series? It's basically... They're my milestone albums. You know when you get a new computer and you run a benchmark on it? It's like 3D Mark 012 or whatever. And it does all the fancy graphics and like stresses your system out. It pushes it as hard as it can go. That's what the FX albums are for me. They're basically like how good can I compose now? So I write the craziest crap that I can. That's just like the spastic stuff that you're talking about, that I play live. It's too complicated and it's crazy and it's stupid. So I write one of those every like 5 years or so, as a where am I now kind of benchmark, a milestone. And so I just released 4 last year, and it's just crazy, stupid, complex. But I'm not gonna actually start on 5th until I actually have better skills than I have now. I have to grow into it, It's gotta work itself out of me over a number of years. I can't just sit down and like write a crazy album.
Well, I would assume it would be a lot of work, and on top of that, it would also be a little bit redundant to. And it's great that he wants another one so soon, but it'll probably mean a lot more when you've changed a lot over the next 4 years or so.
It will be more of the same. Yeah, if you compare 3 and 4, it's like night and day. Like I was able to write catchy stuff back then, and now it's just a mess of notes everywhere, just every which way.
Can't wait to hear it.
It's haphazard. Yeah, it's on my Bandcamp, and like everything else, it's free. So enjoy.
Yeah, I will. I didn't get to ask too much about direct influences. I should before I forget, because I'm sure people are interested. If there were certain composers in games or whatever that really made you think, like, I want to try to take those specific skills and run with them in a new direction, or just people that wrote music that made you think I want to make people feel that way too. So is there any names you want to drop?
It's definitely the Konami guys. Definitely the Konami sound team that worked on all the NES Konami games. Ninja Turtles 1, 2, and 3. Of course, Contra, Metal Gear, like pretty much all the old classic Konami games are. That's what hit me the hardest by far. But pretty much every game that I played as a kid, from Zelda to Zelda 2 to Maniac Mansion to Ninja Gaiden, Marble Madness. I mean, like just about every video game soundtrack that I played as a kid has touched me in some way, and that's going from the original, from original Nintendo all the way to the Super Nintendo to the N64. Like everything I listen to kind of influences me a little bit, but some things more than others. And Konami is definitely that more than others type of deal. But then you have like artists like Michael Jackson is like my favorite. And what I mean by that is Teddy Riley and Quincy, like
Sure.
the producers behind them that are writing, actually writing the songs. Let's see, the Beatles. I listened to a lot of Beatles as a kid, and that's where I learned to write simple, catchy melodies over simple chord structures that are good. A lot of folk music has been part of my life because my dad is really big into folk stuff, folk and bluegrass, Americana and stuff like that. So it pretty much is like all over the map. My grandpa made me listen to a lot of barbershop harmony as a kid, which I hated, and now it's my favorite. So come full circle there. I just try to take as much different influence from different places as I possibly can, because you never know when you're going to need to. It's like, oh, I got to write a free jazz piece today. If you fake it, people are going to know you're faking it. So you have to actually know what you're doing, or not know what you're doing, but be able to fool them into thinking you know what you're doing.
Right. I have some understanding of what kind of thinking goes into that. Yeah.
You have to at least know the theory, or at least be familiar with the material. But I'd say as far as the big influences, it was Konami Sound Team, pop music like Michael Jackson, and film music.
And what music?
Film music, movie scores.
I thought you said phone music, like ringtones. Which is
phone
fine.
music. It was phone music. The AT&T ringtone is one of my biggest influences. Yeah. The little xylophone thing the iPhone plays. I'm like, I'm bumping that shit in my.
I had a real question for you. It's a bad question. It's a caffeine-fueled question.
Yes.
I guess I'll do it. We have 30 minutes, so I think we have a little time.
Okay.
John Williams. He started off being kind of a ragtime piano guy. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah. Well, he also had history in the I think he wrote for the Navy band.
Oh yeah.
Like I think it was the Navy or Air Force. He was an orchestrator for their band, and he's also been into he conducts the Boston Pops, I believe. Like he's all over the place. I mean, you can hear it in in the Star Wars Cantina theme. Like he has like serious chops with popular music as well as his orchestrated stuff. So,
which is all the more reason I see parallels there between you and him. Always, he did the soundtrack. I believe it was for a movie called "Love's the Only Game in Town," starring Walter Matthau. You're familiar with that? And he wrote a song. I think he wrote it for Walter Matthau to sing. It is not as popular as the Indiana Jones theme or the Star Wars theme or the Superman theme, but people really love it. Like the diehard fans of John Williams are so happy that Walter Matthau sang this song with old friends, new friends, kind of old blue friends. Like he's really sad and scraggy sound. Do you have Love's the Only Game in Town in your rep? And you look back on it like, nobody's going to really get why I did that, but I collaborated with somebody who I thought was great and did a weird thing, and nobody knows what it is.
I'd say I have more of those than I have things that I'm publicly proud of. I mean, just like a couple of years ago, I did a global game jam with James Montana, which is he's one of the directors at Way Forward. He worked on Adventure Time with me, and we did a 48-hour game jam, and we made a game called Snake 2, which is
he talked to me about that, but please do talk about it again. I didn't realize you worked on that. It's the sequel to Snake.
Yeah, it's the sequel to Snake. Where you're munching along the numbers and stuff, and you have to not eat your tail and stuff. The theme of the global game jam was the Ouroboros, the snake that's eating its own tail, in a circle. And so we made a game where you're a snake and you're shooting like bullets and going through. You can eat anything. You go through like buildings and stuff and just eat through the buildings. And also your tail is a hand that you can grab like helicopters with and stuff. And the tail like follows behind you and you like grab helicopters or airplanes or things. And then at the end of the game, you fight your dad, who's the butt king. It's just a pair of legs with a butt on it, and like a lightsaber comes out of the butt and goes, and he's like, "You've come far, my son, but not far enough."
What was your involvement in Snake 2? I assume you did the soundtrack.
Yeah, I did the soundtrack, and I sang like the end credits theme. I went into a lecture hall at the university. It was at USC, and I went into the lecture hall and like recorded myself singing in like the beautiful natural reverb of the room. And I'm like, sometimes you're a snake, sometimes your dad's a bud, but so what? It was idiocy. And that's just an average weekend for me, honestly. Like, I just get involved in so many ridiculous, stupid things, just because. So when I do something serious, it's almost like, I don't know, it almost feels out of character for me. Like, why am I even doing this?
What an awesome life, though. That's so. Only a few times a year do I get to do something really. I try to do stuff Holmes every week. That's like my time to have.
Dude, Teenage Pokemon is like one of my favorite things on the entire internet.
No way,
dude.
Really? Nobody likes it. I was
when
just thinking
Sean
today
came
about
over to my office, like, you remember when Sean did the Chansey thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was done in my studio, like downstairs from where I am right now. Like, I have so much good blackmail material on him right now. I use like my little I use this thing, which lets me record stuff, and I pointed.
Oh, is that like Zoom? What is it called?
It's a H4n. I love it. Like I record all kinds of crazy. I have so many dog sound effects right now for my dog. He's like licking his wiener and stuff. I use them as video game sound effects all the time. Like WayForward games, shipping WayForward games have my dog licking his wiener as sound effects in them. And they're not things you'd expect, like an enemy licking you. It's like a gun. Like I'll distort a sound into a gun. Like it starts out as a, and I turn into a what? So I had Sean say like, Chansey, Chansey. I'm like, do a sadder one. Chansey. Chansey. Yeah. So I have like megabytes of him doing Chansey.
And I thank you so much for that. That was a highlight of that episode, in my opinion. With the original voice actor of Brock, like the real Brock, we paid him to compare, but we wanted to punctuate it with Sean Velasco as Chansey, just screaming, Chansey! Really upset. We have 7 minutes left. I've been ignoring all these questions some more. I feel like a jerk again. I think this is pronounced Stree. It's ST3 Mage. So that's Stree Mage?
Oh, have you ever heard of Metroid Metal?
Yes, I have.
That's the guy. He's the lead guitarist.
Oh, wow.
And
I love what you do on Metroid Metal.
Trying to mix all the music. Yeah, he's one of the best musicians I've ever met, pretty much. So.
Well, people should go check him out. And his question is, I'd like to hear about Virt's experience with the mixtape tracks on Double Dragon Neon. Yes, we should definitely be talking about that. Sure, okay. All different genres, etc. You did the Dragon Neon soundtrack with Sean Velasco. It's a high point of the game for a lot of people. And Jeff Luke sang on it. That was great.
He sure did.
Included him. Yeah, he did a
wonderful
comes job. So how was that whole experience?
You need a singer? And I'm like, as luck would have it, I do. Actually, I didn't at the time, but I was like, I do now. I will find something to use you in. And sure enough, Double Dragon came up, and it was like, perfect! So, okay, so the mixtapes are a perfect example of us just dicking around in a room and coming up with stupid ideas and then doing them. Sean's like, all right, so check this out. I have all the different like special attacks and special moves in the game. We're going to be like tapes that you collect. And you gotta put it's like you make a mixtape of all your special moves. And you're like, oh, that's stupid. And then he did that. He put it in the game, put programmers on it, and it's like a real thing. And he's like, okay, so imagine when you hover over the the different mixtapes that you can select if they actually played like a real song. Like, you know, Spin Kick played a song called Spin Kick. He's like, no, that's too much work. You know, you wouldn't want to do that. And I'm like, I'm doing it, Sean. He's like, dude, there's like 100 mixtapes. I'm like,
yeah, that was a lot of mixtapes. Was it 100 or was it 50? I can't remember.
well, there's 5 variations on like 20 or something like that.
Yeah.
That's 100, right? So I didn't do a unique one. I wanted to do a more intense, like 5 more, increasingly more intense versions of the same song. But that probably literally would have killed me. So just doing like the 15 or 20 or whatever I did, was a lot of work because every one of those takes its own mixing and setup, and it's not like I can just pop out a short amount of music easily. I have to set up the whole thing and record the guitars and dial in the guitar tone and like get the right drum sounds and stuff. It's like each one is like it's not much harder to make a 3-minute song than it is to make a 10-second song.
Right. In terms of production, you need to fine-tune everything just as well. It's just a matter of notes you lay down, but the finish is the same.
10 seconds of Whitesnake or Huey Lewis and the News is still freaking hard. So it was way more work than I expected. But we got Jesse, who sings the Mango Tango track, City Streets 1-2, and then Jeff Luke as well. He did the Marvin Gaye one, and then I did the Beastie Boys one and the Public Enemy one. Like, I dislike law enforcement with a vengeance. And then the Beastie Boys track was all my enemies gonna get rocked. You know, that kind of thing.
I'm sad that more people haven't experienced that. Hopefully they still will. I like to think Double Dragon Neon will be similar to Earthbound in that it's just its audience is going to continue to grow over the years, and in 10 years re-release it will be a big deal and everyone will be talking about it. I hope so, because it's one of those kinds of games. So much to that.
I hope, unlike Earthbound, nobody will be so obsessive about the music that they disassemble it note by note and like do theoretical, dissertations on it. Because I do that shit with Earthbound all the time. Yeah, really? I'm obsessed with the music from Earthbound, like autistically obsessed, like on a technical level, because I think nothing else comes even close to how brilliant it is. Like the combination of Suzuki's compositions and Tanaka's like programming, because they programmed that's not written on a keyboard, like played super happy. They programmed it like in hexadecimal bytes, like bit by bit. Like it's so precise and incredidible. Like I could go on for hours about how amazing Earthbound is, but
I had no idea. I love the music, but I don't have any knowledge on how it was done.
It's ridiculously complicated and brilliant.
Huh. Same with Mother 3. I like the music of that too, but it doesn't have quite the same.
I do like it. It's not quite as like stick with you. It's like I feel like Earthbound itself is like the perfect definition of video game music as a genre and not just as a career or a pastime or a hobby. Like it sounds like nothing. It uses the Super Nintendo sound chip as a musical instrument that's completely unique. It's not just playing samples. Like it's the Super Nintendo sound. And I can't think of any other game except maybe Mario Kart that defines it that strongly. So yeah, I have a lot of love for Earthbound's music.
Do you have a favorite song?
Right word. Probably Foreside, or the battle themes, like as a whole. Like I just really love the battle themes. The way they just kind of glitch out in the middle. Actually, I put a glitch like that in the original Shantae soundtrack on the Game Boy Color in like 2001, because that was when I was in the throes of my like Earthbound obsession. And Bozon's like, take that glitchy part out. Like, no!
And people should know Shantae and Earthbound, they were re-released on the same day. One for 3DS and one for Wii U. Shantae to get overshadowed, unfortunately. But people should check out Shantae, even if it's just for the music. It is a wonderful, wonderful game on 3DS.
It's fun, and it pushed the Game Boy Color one pushed the limits pretty hard. It's like one of the last games ever, and it did some crazy technical tricks. Like colored lighting on the Game Boy. Like, what are you even talking about? You go under a lamp and you change color. It's like that's some next gen AAA crap right there.
And just the frames of animation alone. Oh, rats! There's 2 questions. We're out of time. I had too much fun talking to you. I sang a lot on this episode. I apologize.
Yeah, I bring that
let's
out
see.
to people.
Real quick, we'll do these before it's too late.
Okay.
XKevX asks, can you think of a game you played where the sound or music was really bad or unbearable? You don't seem like the kind of person who would want to come out with that.
I can totally think of those, and I'm not gonna tell you because I don't want to talk crap about other musicians. I'll do it in private.
But that
though.
does happen sometimes.
Yeah, if I'm just
Okay,
like drunk
I'll hear
or hanging
about
out
it
with friends, I'll
later.
do that. Yeah.
What is your opinion of custom soundtracks for video games? Asked Neko Frog. Does it detract from the artistic vision, or does it allow for greater enjoyment of the player? This is a thank you for asking that, Neko Frog. It's something I wanted to ask because I felt a real loss when Quentin Tarantino soundtracks got really popular. I was like, oh no, film scores are going to start to die out. That made me sad. And then Grand Theft Auto took that same feeling by making their soundtrack just the radio. And I got scared that like game scores and their importance were going to start to die out. So do you have any feeling about that? If there's something to be worried about when it comes to just using sampled music or using just custom soundtracks that the user creates, in terms of that potentially diminishing the importance of film scores, game scores, or your work.
Basically, anytime there's like a new development in the use of licensing or artificially generated stuff or whatever, there's always going to be the purists who are like, oh, my job is at stake. I feel threatened by this. I don't. I'm one of those guys who's like thinking games are exploding. They're going everywhere. There's so many more of them being made today than there ever have been before. And there's room for all of us. There's room for everything. I think there's a definite time and a place for original stuff and for licensed stuff in video games as in film. Like, I don't think Quentin Tarantino stuff without the licensed music that he used would have been nearly as effective. I think there's definitely a place, like in the GTA series, I can't imagine it having custom bespoke music. Like, it really needs it has to have a radio station with hits from the eras that the games are set in. And so I think, sports games like that, I wouldn't want like a big Hans Zimmer soundtrack. And actually, I would. I want a Hans Zimmer soundtrack in a porn. And if there doesn't exist one, I'm gonna make one. I live like right near the valley, like the San Fernando Valley, where there's like Vivid Entertainment like right next to my house. Like it's literally inches away from my house. I'm gonna go in there and be like, I want to do a Hans Zimmer soundtrack for a porn. Like the guy takes his pants off, like dun 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 dun. Oh yeah. Yeah. There's definitely a place for custom music, okay? Don't get me wrong, but I'm not like all butthurt about it when they use licensed stuff. I'm not feeling threatened, like my livelihood is at stake or anything. There's always going to be, the Snake 2s and the Adventure Times and the Dick Hands. And screw it. If people aren't making a game to hire me to do the soundtrack, I just make my own game. Like, there's Unity. You can be a brain-dead troglodyte and still make a AAA quality game in Unity. So
is that what you made Dick Hand in Unity?
Yeah, I have like 6 projects going right now where I'm actually writing all the code and doing all the graphics because it's like I said, it's so easy to these days. The tools are there. Like, it's so much simpler than it used to be, where you had to write everything in assembly code and it's democratized. So yeah.
Yes, indeed. Well, Sinister telling us we have to stop. He has to go clean his house.
You're gonna be at PAX, right?
I will be.
Okay,
very excited. People should follow you on Twitter. You're at Virt.
JK. Yeah.
Yes.
It stands for just kidding.
And you got and you're on Bandcamp. They can get your music there.
Yes, virt.bandcamp.com.
They should. They should check that out.
And it's all free
for me and Way Forward.
But you don't have to donate. You can just get it for free on the Bandcamp.
And you've got tons of games coming out. Are you doing the regular show game too?
Already done.
Already done. And the new Adventure Time game, the dungeon. I don't know.
Yep. Working on that as well. With Ian Stocker, the Scapegoat guy. I'm working with him on the soundtrack. So it's going to be super awesome.
Awesome.
I'm super excited about it.
So there's a lot of things to look forward to. People should pay attention to you.
Yep.
And if they want to watch the show later on, it's on Detroit TV on YouTube. It's
Sweet.
YouTube channel. And if they want to listen to it later, it's on iTunes. Just look up Sup Holmes on iTunes. You'll find it. All right.
I'll watch it and cry and
You did a wonderful job. I
Punch in
really
my
appreciate you being on the
face.
show.
yeah, for
And you're
sure.
doing a
Let's,
concert next week. I should
next
go
week.
see it.
You should totally go see it. It's Saturday night at 1927 3rd Avenue. 1927 events. It's the Track Mode versus Fan Gamer event. And there's going to be a ton of indie guys there, just hobnobbing and showing off their stuff and hopefully drinking some stuff and rocking out. And Daniel McCannon's going to be there too. So it's going to be an awesome show. You should totally come out and hang. And
I will for sure.
Sean and the Shovel Knight crew will be there, and hopefully James from Wayford will be there, and we'll have a grand old time. Sorry, a gay old time.
Jake, I'm so touched. I'm so freaking touched. I had such a touching time with you. Really nice.
Likewise. I was touching myself the whole time too, man. That's what I do. That's
We
what I
should
do.
raise our hands above our laps and say goodbye.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Okay, bye. It was great to talk to you. See ya.